Wu-Tang forever.
Well, thanks to the fans, and we are the platform that's gonna give you guys what y'all want to talk about hip hop wise. We're not gonna bury no shit like some of the other major media platforms, and y'all have told us to talk about this Czarface album, so we went checked it out. We should have been talking about this. It's just
Wu-Tang.
so much music, man. So sometimes we even got to get a chance to catch up, and it's only so much time that we have during our episodes to talk music, so we're not boring y'all to death. But this shit was hard, Coop.
Like to apologize to Czarface.
Yeah, man. This is another example.
Apology that they deserve like a frontline review for when they dropped this album because they just dropped
Straight
it like
up.
April 29th. It was, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
straight up. This is another example of why Wu Tang is by far the greatest hip hop group of all time.
They are.
There's no group that you're gonna find anywhere, top to bottom, with MCs this talented that have this level of longevity that are just as good or very close to where they were skill wise when you first heard them, if not better. And it's nine of them.
It's
Nine
Wu-Tang
of them.
forever.
It's nine of them.
It's Wu-Tang forever.
It's like a gang of
Today,
lyricists.
today is the day that like people should understand that like last Friday, because today is May 6th, right?
Right.
Okay. So last Friday, Czarface, Inspectah Deck, and what are their names? Seven L and Esoteric,
Mm-hmm.
which is Czarface, the three of them collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Esoteric is dope, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a week later, we get Method Man. It's like, no, it really is like Wu-Tang forever. It's like, well, rhyme wise, like Deck is this. You hear Deck on here?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I think their first project is probably better than this, but it's like I don't know if he sounded better on this because I feel like he's back in like kind of primish form again too. Doesn't it sound like Deck, like Wu-Tang Deck on here?
It does. I think that this current environment that we're in, and like I said, I'm gonna keep kind of going back and forth with this whole theme of hip hop against the machine. And I say hip hop because, hip hop is a free way of thinking. When hip hop became what it was, we weren't even thinking about radio play or any of those things, right? I think that it's kind of returned to that with platforms like ours, and we got followings that are actually here to talk the music, and we got streaming platforms, and you got social media pages that let people know when they're dropping stuff. So you get these organic followings. And those are reinvigorating for artists in ways that, we didn't have, back in the era where, Deck was first going solo. Like I was out with some of my homies last night, and they were telling me like, I mean, they're big Currency fans, right? Big Dom Kennedy fans. They love the fact that these artists make music for them. They don't want them to get big. Now, obviously, they want them to be successful, but they don't want them to get outside of what that like that niche audience gives, that energy. But with that being said, all of those artists who have fans like that, they're consistent as hell. And then Childish Gambino's name came up, and then they were like, "Oh, I remember when he was this before he blew up, and after he blew up, it's not the same anymore." So, saying all that to say, for somebody like Deck, that helps him be real fresh and not have to go out there and basically make music for people who might not be his audience, if that makes any sense.
It all makes perfect sense. I think those are excellent points that you're making, and I'd like to piggyback off of them a little bit if I may.
I was all over the place, but yeah.
No. You were, but
you gotta land the plane.
But you were not. This climate right now, as it exists, is perfect for Deck, just like it's perfect for Ransom, just like it's perfect for Griselda, just like it's perfect for guys like Nas, KRS-One. Like, if you can Cole, if you were the type of, you know, rapper who's like a rapping ass rapper who can rap your ass off, well, this is the climate. And so Deck checks all of those boxes, okay? And what I would submit to you, and this is where all of your stuff really makes sense. Well, what really happened to Deck, and this is what I mean, what happened to Deck with Wu-Tang is their biggest mismanagement is because the game changed while they were waiting to put Deck out. And what Deck did was more prevalent and relevant and more skewed towards what hip-hop media and labels were looking for via 93 to 97. After 97, it changed. Y'all should have dropped Deck right after you dropped Ghost. But you didn't. The game changed in that time. Even the sound on Wu-Tang Forever is a little bit different because of that. That's why Triumph is $1 million video. The game is changing. And what's really happened to the game is that the first big influx of financial cash for Black people really happened in the business. And that's what really changed. People have to understand that in 1994, that means we were just 20 years in on this shit. People are just starting to really cash in.
Right. And the industry part of it was younger than that, really. I mean, when you think about...
The industry part's even younger than that.
Yeah.
It's like the dope game, Mike. You know, it's like when you see your first piece of change, it's like you hustle for a little bit to make ends meet and, you know, do what you got to do, and you re-up and you come back again. Like, their re-up was super big because the game had changed. The cost of the work was different. You feel me?
Right.
Like, they could sell Protect Your Neck out the trunk of their car and be flat broke and just do whatever they needed to do on their corners, like live. It's like the new Triumph, we need to push weight. We need to push weight now.
Shout out to 007 in the room. He says, this era is, I'm sorry, he said, this is the era of spitters, circa 94, 95, 96.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, that 3-year period, because we're talking about 2020, 2021, and 2022. It's been a lot of spitting going on.
So can we stop for a second? Because I'm glad Bam said it, because that's actually one of my comments today. I'm just starting to realize it's like, you know what? 2020 might have been 94. Last year might have been 95. And this might be 96.
This year is heavy. And we're not saying that just to gas shit up. Like you said.
So listen, 94 was a great year, but it was really just a classic year. It's like some classic and some great stuff came out, and it was top heavy. 95 was a bunch of dope shit and a few classics at the top. 96 was that year where it was like, man, there was like 20 albums that seemed like they came out that you loved.
Somebody said the Czar sounds similar to 96J. Did you get that?
Where? 96J, how? Like delivery-wise from Esoteric?
I heard some deliveries that, you know, were kind of J reminiscent. I could say that.
You mean the Esoteric flows?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there was some of that, you know, can't knock the hustle flow in there. The good dirt like worms, the juice cheese like sperms, the legs like germs. Yeah, no. There was some of that on there. I mean, I think that was kind of the point, though.
You know, I want to get back to Deck real quick. And you said something that I do want to highlight. The game did change by the time that he actually came out. I remember, man, I was in my first car. I had to be like 16 or whatever in my Altima, driving to high school in 16, 17 or whatever. I remember getting the demo or the snippet tape rather. Because you know I had like the sampler tape or whatever when Deck was coming out with Uncontrolled Substance. And they really didn't have a real single.
They didn't have a sound for him. They didn't have a single.
They didn't have a sound. Because if we look back at everybody in the Wu that came out, you got Bring the Pain. You know, that's an introduction. Brooklyn Zoo is an introduction. You've said that you think that Brooklyn Zoo is probably the best performance by a Wu-Tang member on a solo tip, period. Boom, you got that. You got Incarcerated Scarfaces from Ray. You got All That I Got Is You from Ghost, or if you want to go Daytona 500, that's there too.
You go Glaciers of Ice with Ray too. That's what I'm saying. It's like where you want to go.
But I'm just talking about just introducing people, right? Like, because the first single's big. Now I would say Jizza with Cold World, right?
No, Jizza's Liquid Swords.
Okay, yeah. The MCs
And that was
came,
like,
yeah.
well, that was old school MC stuff too. Like
Yeah.
that's stuff they used to say in the cipher. He's the old school MC in the cipher. Like
Yeah, and Deck, they didn't really have anything. I guess they were going off of the whole playing off of the Inspectah thing, and it was like, the game had changed. Even Capadonna's slang editorial, I thought, was stronger.
it was, and I'm going to tell you what happened is that they did try with Deck because his first single was called Rec Room. And Rec Room was supposed to be an ode, obviously, to where hip hop started, Mike, in the Rec Room. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they tried to hip hop Deck out. But what I'm saying is that they didn't hip hop him out properly. It doesn't seem like Wu-Tang was all the way behind it. Like, it seemed like at that point that the guys that he needed to get on record had gotten so big and were so into their own project. Like, think about it. First of all, this is when Ghost is going through his legal stuff, if I'm not mistaken, and his health thing. So Ghost's not there. Ray is like legendary at this point.
I think Ray was living in Atlanta at that point.
Right. You know, you and I already know that. Old Dirty Bastard is already a legend at this point. Method Man is already a legend at this point. The Jizza and the RZA are already a legend at this point. It's like, who is around to help Deck get that project done, to have that Wu-Tang sound and that feel and that core hip-hop lyrical aesthetic that he brings to the table? Because what needed to happen for him is really somebody like RZA needed to do for him what he did for Jizza with Liquid Swords, which is pretty much like,
I agree.
You go rap about whatever it is you want to rap about. I got you.
Yep. Jay Short with the super chat says, I don't think the producers are at the level of 94 to 96 though. Maybe because of the lack of sampling. That's a good observation.
I don't think the songs are as classic, but that doesn't mean it's all about how you want to weigh things. It's like, well, hey, like Primo didn't have a beat that hit like New York State of Mind until New York State of Mind. Not that like hit like it, like heavy. Boom, 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 boom. Like, nah, his stuff wasn't like that. It was mass appeal. Boom, 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 boom. It wasn't boom, 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 boom. It wasn't that. You know, so like even those guys that you're talking about, oh no, they found their stride around that time. Go listen to their stuff in like 90, 91, and 92. Like, it's super happy. Like Pete Rock was actually the guy that was actually thought to like have like the dark sound.
Right.
Right. Like those
shout
other
out
guys
to
were
Reggie with
like
the
a happy sound. Primo shit was considered to be like the happy sound. His shit ended up being the hip hop sound. Him and Q-Tip and Large Pro were like making happy shit. They said Pete Rock was making the dark shit. Like, it's funny how like history just kind of like, you know?
Right. Shout out to Reggie with the super chat. He said, fellas, can you guys do a special episode, I'm sure he said episode, on the mother of hip-hop, Sylvia Robinson, and the next Hip-Hop Yearbook? A special expo. We'll do that. I think Sylvia Robinson needs her props. You know, like I said, I've been talking to the Hip-Hop Hall of Fame, and I think there's something that we can come together with on that.
Like, what you saying when you say that? Like, what are we...
You know, I think that maybe there could be some sort of segment in the yearbook that maybe kind of flashes back and tells a story, part of history or something. Maybe that's something that could be done. Or maybe that's something that we could do on the channel. Like someone in here told me to watch out with the Red Bulls because it killed Kevin Samuels. It's not good for the heart. Yeah, I don't really do Red Bulls too much. Just, you know, we had a long day and we got a show to do. So
we had a lot going on. Me and Mike been up since.
I've been up since like what, 7? You hit me at like 7:30 this morning.
It was earlier than that actually. Yeah. And the fact that you responded to, I'm like, man, I hope this fool didn't go to bed when I did. He really a fool.
Yeah, I went to bed kind of late. But yeah, overall, man, this project, the production, and see, that's the thing about, you know, that comment that Jay Short made. I think now what we're doing production-wise in hip-hop, at least especially when you talk about some of the more non-mainstream efforts, you get one production team or one producer that's doing the whole thing. And I think that's the best. Now that really reminds me of the early '90s type of vibe, because
It
back
is.
in the early '90s, a Tribe Called Quest album is going to be totally produced by a Tribe Called Quest, aka Q-Tip. That we know now, but or a Public Enemy album, it's going to be all Bomb Squad.
It's kind of funny, and I'm not saying this as a Nas fan. Well, the shift before this podcast started, the writer in me. Remember when you gave me the information about how Kanye was producing 4 projects in 4 weeks?
Yeah.
I said, Mike, let me cover every one of those albums, please, unless you have somebody else that wants to. I said, because what he's doing, I think may shift the climate. Do you remember when I told you that?
Yeah.
I said, nobody just has one producer really do their projects like that anymore. I'm like, there's stuff floating out there. I'm like, but not like that. And I said, and even if there are people doing it, because I believe you even brought up Alchemist and Pete Rock specifically, you brought those 2 people up. And I'm like, yeah. I said, but they're not Kanye.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of how it's going to move the meter. Now, since that happened, since Daytona and Kid See Ghost and Ye and Nasir and Tiana Taylor, what has it been?
Even the amount of songs that people put on projects now has been shifted because of that. Because when that came out, people were saying 7 songs. Now all the projects that come out, they're like 8, 9, maybe 10 songs at most.
Now people can go pull this up. Go read my article review on Daytona, where I literally, the only reason I didn't give it a perfect score was because of the album cover, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt the album cover was going too far and it was disrespectful. But I told you musically it was flawless. But I also said, too, this is probably the new bar for how long the players are about to be because of the times that we're in. I wrote that about Daytona. What has it been since then?
It's been that.
That's why I wanted to write about it. It's documented. Like go pull those articles back up, so people can see them, because it's like, that's the ability of Ye. That's why I'm saying, because you were right. I was going and pulling up Pete Rock and Alchemist stuff when you were saying that. And that's why I came back the next day and told you, it's like, yeah, but they're not Ye.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So
how many times has this guy shifted the culture, man?
Right, but here's also why I want to say this to say. It's like, well, Nas was a part of that too, because the guy that really made everybody go get different producers was Nas with Illmatic. And he actually helped bring it back with the run with Kanye, having one producer do your shit. And he's also one of the people, guess who's done the best in this climate of one producer?
Nas has.
Right.
Yeah.
Culture shifters, legends. They do big boy shit, not little shit. You can see their impact and effect on the culture. You can see their footprints in the sand. Like, it ain't, you don't gotta force it or throw it on Rolling Stone or.
And they don't have to ride a wave, you know what I'm saying? And I think that that's the thing in this climate too, where everybody's able to kind of be their own individual and really exist in that. They're not riding waves. I think that's another thing that I guess we're gonna call them, like, maybe some of the smaller hardcore fan bases like too. Their artist is not riding waves. You know what I'm saying? Like, Currency's audience knows that Currency's gonna give them some dope music they can ride to. He's not gonna go out here and get Jack Harlow on a, you know what I'm saying, and try to ride whatever wave is going on. I think that's and we're gonna get to that when we talk about the Jack Harlow album. But I think that's a very fickle attitude to have as an artist, and to try to reach that type of music listener, because I don't think that type of music listener is a hip hop listener. That's a pop listener. Mm-hmm. And I don't think pop actually has an actual sound. I think pop is just all about whatever is popular at the time.
They're right. Somebody said Deck should have dropped. SD21 said Deck should have dropped spring of '96. I agree. That would have been right before Ghost, but around that time, there was nothing wrong with pushing those guys together, because if you really look at it, it's like, no, Meth came, and by the time Meth was doing I'll Be There For You, Brooklyn Zoo had already been came, and they were overlapping. They were overlapping each other with no problem.
All right, so we're talking about songs being minimized as far as the number of songs that are on albums.
Mhm.
Is Kendrick in position to change that notion with this double album?
Well, also too, this is what I mean about culture shifters. Well, the first set of classic hip hop albums, Mike, what are they? They're 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah,
11 songs.
yeah.
How long is LL Cool J's radio?
It's somewhere around there.
How
Radio
long is
might be
Paid in
like
Full?
7, yeah, 8 songs. Yeah, Paid
How,
in Full's not a
how,
lot of songs either.
how long is Criminal Minded? By Any Means Necessary.
Yeah.
The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Am I naming a song that has more than 12 records on it yet?
No, because the thing is, back then we were on vinyl, and vinyl only fit so many songs. You know what I mean? So there was no putting 15, 16 songs on vinyl. I think that, and I say this about Michael Jackson, like, I think Off the Wall, Thriller, right? And then Bad. These are his vinyl albums. Now, obviously, CDs existed, in the mid 80s, but they didn't become like, just common objects, and everybody didn't have a CD player until maybe like 90, right? Where vinyl kind of just took a back seat. His first CD era album was Dangerous. He had to make more songs than he had ever made before on an album. A lot of those songs that were on Dangerous, and I think Dangerous is actually a really, really dope album, wouldn't have made it on in the vinyl era of Michael Jackson as an artist.
Well, because he
And
wouldn't have
so
had to
in the
do James.
CD era, people were trying to fill up these 75 minutes. I think we've gone back to the vinyl mentality in the digital era, if that makes any sense. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're perfectly fine.
But yeah, I think that we've dialed back in the streaming era to the way that people really need to listen to music. These long albums in the double album era, this was all to make people feel like they were getting their money's worth in the CD era, since the CD was able to hold 75 minutes.
I don't agree with
You
that.
don't agree with that?
I think that's the optimist in you. I told you, like when rappers release double albums, there's something contractual about that to me, and not
Oh yeah,
artistic.
yeah,
And
yeah,
not
yeah,
to
yeah.
give the fans more.
And
Like
I think they want the sales to reflect too.
no, because they want the money to reflect, and they want the notoriety to reflect. Like there's
Well, so, all
rap,
right. This is the
rap,
thing. This is
rappers
the
are
thing.
emotional and have egos. People do understand that, right? That's why rappers and like athletes, like there are certain like professions where certain people get along with each other really well. And it's well because like you have to have a certain sort of like mentality and mind state to operate in those realms at a high level. And so like one of those things is your confidence. Some people will call it arrogance or ego or pride or however for whatever it is from person to person. But it's like, well, when you rap, you're emotional and you have an ego.